the point of these monthly meetings for the World Intellectual Forum is to bring together thinkers, visionaries, intellectuals, broadly defined. So what's an intellectual? Well, it's someone with a brain and a heart who is on multitasking duty for solving contemporary planetary problems. I've been trying to research the concept, the history of the word intellectual, and it's got a long history in European thought in the 18th century, 19th century. And it meant someone who wasn't just a sort of professional, you know, academic hack, but someone who could think outside the box, who was an activist as well. I call this an intellectivist, someone who uses their academic training or their science or their philosophy, and then actually wants to make society better in some way by some visionary. You know, all intellectuals have their own theories and projects as to how this can be. They want to change the form of government, or they want to build some kind of utopia or whatever. What we're trying to do is saying, look, let's get the intellectuals of the world together. Let's think this thing through, because the planetary problems we're facing are now so vast. No one intellectual can think it through. We don't need another Marx or, you know, another Lenin or something, or another Rousseau. We need us all to work together and test and weigh each other's theories. You know, how can we make this planet better? What can we do? Some people think that, you know, we need more democracy. We need more kind of genuine democratic structures like the European Union has been trying to develop in each country. There are teething problems with that. And we're being joined by a friend from Slovenia who might talk about some of those issues. Others say, no, we need more science. We need drop all religion. That's all, you know, old fashioned. This was an idea in the 18th century. Kant, the positivist tradition, took the view that intellectuals should all be scientists and positivists. They should give up medieval thought. God was an outmoded notion, and in fact was harmful. Religion was causing, you know, endless wars. So let's jettison that. And Kant wrote a kind of whole treatise, loads of books on positivist knowledge. That was the only thing worth having. And it influenced philosophy. Philosophers said, yeah, this is right, positivism. And it became very fashionable in intellectuals in the 20th century in the form of logical positivism. They thought they could cleanse language of all metaphysics, get rid of all God talk or religious talk. And Wittgenstein and Russell and all these logical positivist types. That was the tradition I encountered when I studied philosophy at the University of Bristol in the 1970s. And it didn't really work for me, because I was already interested deeply in metaphysics. And I rather resented being told the duty of the philosopher is to not do philosophy. So I'm afraid I was a rebel against that tradition, and I plunged into a deep, deep study of comparative metaphysics globally. And I've come to the view that it's possible to reconcile advanced, you know, metaphysics, perennial philosophy, Sanatana Dharma, with science. And I'm glad to see most scientists are now saying this. You know, most of the great experts in physics and biochemistry and mathematics even. I'm writing a book about mathematics and spirituality at the moment. Most of them have realized, you know, science is only a tool. It's not the answer. It's a tool of knowing. But we need to sharpen the tool. And, you know, so really the three questions I think we're looking at what can intellectuals do to advance planetary peace? Well, how can we get science and spirituality to better cooperate? You know, what's our role individually? Wherever we are on that spectrum, we have scientists among us, we have spiritual visionaries. Secondly, what is truth? You know, this is the eternal question. What is eternal truth? Let's not beat around the bush. What is eternal truth? We discussed this last week, the idea of Sanatana Dharma, in a special gathering with TRANSBRAHM, which was very interesting. And you know, some of us might want to carry on with those conversations. And then, how can intellectuals work better for planetary cooperation? I mean, we have this thing, the World Intellectual Forum. It's the only thing that there is. So let's use it. Let's develop it in our respective countries. Let's get the conversations going. Okay, so that's my kind of little introduction. and welcome to everyone. I wonder if we could start with very brief go round of our respective, backgrounds. Just say a few words about yourself, where you're from, which country you're speaking from, and then we'll have our first sort of speaker, as it were. So, Jai, would you like to go first? You're in Istanbul, yeah.
Yeah, my name's Jameson Layhill. I'm British and I live between two countries. I live in Istanbul and I live in the Malvern Hills in the UK. Background, well, I was an educator for many years, curriculum manager, curriculum designer, lecturer in ESOL Enterprise, and then I gravitated into the world of digital marketing. On the flip side, outside of work, I've been an initiated fire pujari, trained in the foothills of the Himalayas since 1996. So I follow a yogic shamanic path, but that's something that's not so. I don't really in my work. It's not mentioned. It's my my private life, but it's becoming more and more to the fore to share these things because of what Thomas has said about the world, the situation we're in now. That's me in a nutshell. Welcome.
Okay, right. Thank you, Jai. Welcome. Mohammed, would you like to go next, sir? Just introduce yourself to the group. Yeah. You'll have to unmute so we can hear you. That's it.
Okay. Greetings. Namaste. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum for anyone. Yeah, my name's Muhammad Jesus Krishna. Okay, I'm speaking from Indonesia at the moment. I was actually born in the island of Ireland, so I was. But for the last 5 years, I've been living in Indonesia. I'm a pretty high up member of the World Philosophical Forum. Also now the director of the all planetary USE, all WPF, WPF, all planetary civil education coordination center. I've authored 7 books at the moment, the USE WPF masterclass series. They're now available on Amazon, so they are, and they'll be available with many of the other branches around the world of the World Philosophical Forum. These include programs, the Earth XX1 Citizenship, 21st Century Earth Citizenship, planetary citizenship. What we're trying to do is planetization of citizenship. Okay, so it's a huge concept and a huge step for humanity as well. His Excellency Thomas Daffern is a member as well of the World Philosophical Forum. I do believe he's an aristocrat of the earth as well.
Don't tell anyone, Mohammed. Keep it quiet.
Among the best of the best, they say. There may be a few other members here as well. And some of the programs that I have put together myself now open up the opportunity. There's like a connecting level in between called New World Teachers, civil educators. So there's 2 levels in that. There's an A and a B. Well, the level A includes the Earth XX1 citizenship. The level B includes the level 1 and level 3, which is the aristocrat. So it's an all-inclusive package.
Mohammed, this is a very brief introduction. You don't need to. Let's not go into all the details now.
Okay.
Just
just one last bit about it. Via this, it opens up the opportunity for others to share and recruit other leaders and citizens, and also earn commissions while they're doing it as well. So it's a good opportunity for the world. That's what I'm involved in at the minute. I'm also, I've walked the yogic path as well, been a Kriya Yoga for a few years, and I don't think Sanatana Dharma goes away, the eternal way. I believe it's one with philosophy, because philosophy, after all, is the love of wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is harmony. What is harmony? Yeah, I believe it's not believe, but my own personal experience is the essence is all one and the same. So it is.
Yeah.
The essence is all one and the same. So if we can get back to the essence, it unites us.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you for your sharing. Later on, you'll have a proper slot. You can go into more detail. And
Okay.
when you say you're born on the Isle of Arran, do you mean the one in Scotland? The Isle of Arran?
Say again, sir?
Do you mean the Isle of Arran in Scotland?
No, the Isle of Ireland.
Oh,
Ireland.
Ireland. Okay.
Yes, not far away from you, sir.
No, that's excellent. Well done. We have some other Irish guests joining us. Right, now we come to, let's move on. Murali, would you like to just introduce yourself very briefly?
Okay, Murali. Tambi is my family name. Tambi Chandraya Murali. Chandraya, my father name. So my given name is Murali. My origin is from India, South India, Chennai, nearby that. And I shifted to Singapore in 1995. So it is more than 25 years I'm living here. I've become a Singapore citizen also, with the overseas citizen of India visa status. That is, anytime I can go and come to India. Yeah, I'm basically a civil engineer, upgraded as safety, health, environment professional in the construction industry. Also, I'm still working in that industry for the past few years, on and off, not a regular employment. But recently, since last month, I have been going for the work. It may be lasting for a few months. It's a contract basis. I'm involved in this AAIF and US IIPSGP because of the project called now renamed as Universal Peace Tower. So I think you will be later giving more details about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Murali. Excellent. Now, so we have Sean. Are you there? Would you like to introduce yourself very briefly? I'm not sure. Can Sean unmute himself? Sean is from Ireland. He's the World Intellectual Forum coordinator there. Maybe we should go into our first speaker, because it might be better than, and we can introduce ourselves as we come to the floor, so to speak. So Kanu, I was going to ask you to go first, as it were. Kanu Meha is joining us from India. So introduce yourself first. Tell us about your work and so on. And then let's hear your talk. And I'm sure we'll all want to take notes.
Thank you, Professor Thomas. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And yeah, let me introduce myself. I am basically from India. I'm from New Delhi, the capital of India. And all my education is from India. I completed my PhD in biochemistry with specialization in neuroscience. And I also completed my postdoc from National India Center, which is it's a premier institute in near NCR region near Delhi. And after that, I moved to Europe in Czech Republic. So I lived for 2 years in Czech Republic, where I worked in a pharmaceutical company. So yeah, after that, I came to United Arab Emirates. So I'm currently living in Dubai, where I'm working as an assistant professor at Manipal of Education and teaching the BSc Biotechnology discipline. So my research my interest lies in neuroscience and the neurodegenerative diseases and the possible therapeutic interventions. So yeah, that is my introduction. And today I want to present little about the Sanatana Dharma and the science of the Sanskrit. So my today's topic is the science of the Sanskrit. So I will just share my slide. So Professor Thomas, I want you to enable the sharing, screen sharing.
Yes, let me do that. Now, how do I do that? No, not that one. No. Oh, sorry about this. How do I do that? Nicola, do you know? You can, we've done this before. I ought to know it by now.
She has to do. Go to the share screen and
because I'm sharing, it gives me a message, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Right, I think I've done it now.
Okay, I'll just try again. Yes, correct. So I can just share my screen. Yeah. So, please let me know if the screen is visible to you.
Yes, we can see it now, yes.
Thank you. So yeah, my today's topic is the science of Sanskrit. And I want to thank Professor Thomas to give me this opportunity to present at World Intellectual Forum. I'm really grateful to present share my thoughts and views on the science of the Sanskrit. So as we all know, the Sanskrit is the oldest, is the most ancient language, and the word Sanskrit basically derived from conjoining of sam or samyak, which is which refers to the perfectly balanced, or it refers to equanimity, purity, or sacred, and krit means done or executed. So in totality, if we take the Sanskrit as a word, it means perfectly done. So the Sanskrit word also means perfected or refined. So because of its definition, the Sanskrit is, because of this, totality, it's such a completeness in itself. Sanskrit is also known as Devvani, which means the language of gods. The Sanskrit language, whatever be its antiquity, is of wonderful structure. It's more perfect than Greek, more copious than Latin, and more exquisitely refined than either. This is quoted by Sir William Jones, who was a very famous historian. Sanskrit is perhaps the oldest language. It's known to humankind, and it's the most prolific language. It is known to the humans. Since, as we all know, Rig Veda is the oldest written scripture in the world, and Rig Veda is written in Sanskrit. So we can take it like that. Sanskrit must precede the Rig Veda. It's older than, much older than Rig Veda. So the linguists and the scholars throughout the world, they believe that the Sanskrit has a considerable influence on Tamil, Greek, Latin, which are considered as other ancient languages of the world. So this is a little introduction about Sanskrit. Yes. So as we all know, Sanskrit is the origin of many other languages like Asian, European languages. So there is a term which is known as Indo-European languages. This term is coined by Europeans to acknowledge the origin of European language from Sanskrit. So Sanskrit is the origin of many languages in Asia and Europe. So a very renowned historian, William Cook Taylor, acknowledges that to acquire the mastery of this language is almost a labor of life. Its literature is exhaustive. It's so vast that it's very, very difficult to get a mastery of this language. So as we all know, Sanskrit is rich in vocabulary, phonology, grammar, syntax, which remains undiluted till today, despite of its antiquity. It consists of 52 alphabets, 16 vowels, 36 consonants, which are all directly linked to the human physiology. So now we can see how the Sanskrit, reciting Sanskrit mantras affects our physiology, how it brings some kind of physiological changes when we recite the Sanskrit mantras. Sanskrit is also called as the mathematical language of the world, because as we know, the computing language is also Sanskrit. The computers also designed in such a way that they are using the Sanskrit as their tool. So this is very important study, which I want to quote here. It's a very recent study. It was published in 2018 by a neuroscientist, James Hardzell. So James Hardzell is a postdoctoral research fellow in Spain, who, in collaboration with some other scientists from University of Oxford, Harvard, and from Italy, he studied 21 professionally qualified Sanskrit Pandits. So he enrolled these Pandits at National Brain Research Center, where I was also fortunate to work. So he enrolled these 21 Pandits in collaboration with NBRC, which is in India, and he studied the MRI scans of these 21 qualified Sanskrit Pandits, and he matched their MRI scans with the controls. So when he matched the MRI scans of these two groups, he discovered that memorizing Vedic mantras increases the size of the brain. So he found, his study found that the professional Pandits who were reciting the mantras continuously for many, many years, their hippocampal region, hippocampus is a region in our brain which is associated with learning and memory and the thinking skills. So he found that the hippocampal region in the professional Pandits, that region was increased as compared to the controls. So that is a very significant study which shows that the brain can change itself depending upon what kind of practices we are involved in. So James Hartzell also writes that numerous regions in brains of the Pandits were dramatically larger than those of the controls. He found that approximately 10% more gray matter was observed in the professional Pandits who were reciting mantras for a very long period of time as compared to the controls. So it's a very significant study. And you can see here, this is the published paper of James Hartzell, which was published in Scientific American Journal in the year 2018. So now this picture is also published in the same publication, where James Hartzell wants to explain that in ancient times, what used to happen, there used to be a kind of an isolated room where these dhoti-clad Pandits, they used to sit in a kind of a rows in a manner where they make some rows, kind of rows, and they facing each other. So what happens when there is a teacher along with them? So with the one sign of the teacher, with the one single sign of the teacher, the whole room comes to the silence. And when the teacher gives the sign, the row by row, the Pandits in a row by row manner, they recite the mantras, and it's such a harmonious and such a reverberating experience in that room. So that he wants to explain here. So this picture, James Hartzell obtained from the Manju Vajra Mandala from Tibet. So this picture is obtained from Tibet, from the Manju Vajra Mandala. So you can read, we can see here, he also quotes here, I noticed, James Hartzell says, I noticed that more Sanskrit I studied and translated, the better my verbal memory seemed to become. He himself found that more Sanskrit he studied, his learning and memory enhanced. Right? So he was always wondered to know how these Pandits, how these professional Pandits, they can recite the mantras with more than 40,000 words, and approximately the words can reach up to 100,000. And the ancient text, which is 3,000 years old, and they are still able to memorize that. So he was curious to know. So in order to understand this, he executed this study. Okay, so yes. So yes. So this is I would like to just tell you something about mantra. The word mantra means tool of mind, or it is the language of human spirituality. When repeated over a certain period of time, it causes a shift in your consciousness. So as we have seen in this previous study, it clearly indicates that when you continuously recite these mantras, it will enhance your capacity of brain. It will increase your, increase the size of your brain in some different parts. So now it's mentioned here also, as a result of it, you attract different results in your life, and you will have a better in terms of health, relationship, or anything else. So this is the effect of mantras. Now this is, I want to now just mention here, Sanskrit is taught at various universities in India, like your French Institute, Pondicherry, Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, and it is also taught in Institute of Asian Study in Chennai. So there are many, many institutes in India where the Sanskrit is taught in the curriculum. So recently at IIT Indore, Indian Institute of Technology has introduced a one of its kind course where they want to teach Sanskrit in the areas of plant sciences, metallurgy, astronomy, and medicine. So they want to teach these areas in Sanskrit language. So now these are the universities other than India where the Sanskrit is taught. Like in Middle East, it is taught in your Indian School Oman, Tel Aviv University, Israel. In Asia, Beijing University, Kyoto University, Japan, and many more. In America, Brown University, California Institute of Integral Studies, Columbia University, and many more. And Australia, La Trobe University, University of Queensland, University of Sydney. In Europe, it is taught in Austria, Vienna University, Belgium, Ghent University. In Denmark, University of Copenhagen, and like that. So now here, it is a news published in Mail Today, which says that in Germany, there is a college which is known, there is a university which is known as University of Heidelberg. So there is a professor known as Professor Michaelis. He says reading the original text in Sanskrit is essential as these are some of the earliest thoughts and discoveries. So you can see in the right side this picture. This is the picture from the University of Heidelberg, where the students from different parts of the world attending the Sanskrit lectures. So this is how Sanskrit is taught in many, many countries. Now this is very well known scientist, Einstein. He was the most celebrated scientist of his time as well as now, and even after, another 100 years, he will always be celebrated. He said, when I read the Bhagavad Gita, which is written in Sanskrit, and reflect about how God created this universe, everything seems so superfluous. So he says Bhagavad Gita holds such a high significance in his life. And he also quotes that I have made the Bhagavad Gita as the source of my inspiration and guide for the purpose of scientific investigation and formation of my theories. So he wants to say how reading Bhagavad Gita helped him understanding his scientific investigations and formulating his theories. So this is there is one more quote said by these beautiful lines said by Einstein. He said, a human being is a part of whole universe. We should not consider us as individuals. Rather, we are part of this whole universe and we are limited in time and space. So he experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion. If we are thinking that we are separate from this universe, so it's a kind of delusion, right? So this is not true. This delusion is a kind of prison for us. We must not think like that. We must think us as a part of this universe family. So yes, it's restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free from ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all the living creatures and whole of the nature in this beauty. So this is how he explains that we all are part of this nature. Yeah, and even the Sanskrit also says Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, which refers to that the whole world is a family, right? We all are a family and we are part of the family. Okay, now comes a very, very important topic. In today's time, as we all know, artificial intelligence is a very upcoming technology, and it is going to be the future of, like our lives. So artificial intelligence is, it faces a lot of criticism, research, and arguments about how to develop the most suitable language of computer, right? So we are always in like this kind of a criticism that what should be the most suitable language for the computer. According to a recent research, NASA claims that Sanskrit, which is the ancient Hindu language, is the most suitable language to develop computer programming for the artificial intelligence program. Isn't it wonderful that Sanskrit will be used for the computing in future as well as it is used currently? So the grammar of Sanskrit, as we all know, is rule-bound, formula-bound, and logical, which makes it highly appropriate to write the algorithms. So it is the best suited language used for the computers. And I would like to say one more thing here. This relation between NASA and Sanskrit is not a new. It's not a new relationship. It is from way back from 1985 when a NASA associate scientist, Rick Briggs, published a research in Artificial Intelligence magazine where he entitled that Knowledge Representation in Sanskrit and Artificial Intelligence. So he quoted that Sanskrit is one of the most suitable language for the computing techniques. Yeah. So with this, I would like to finish. NASA also said that in the near future, if computers have to speak, they can only do so on the strength of Sanskrit, else computer will crash because Sanskrit is the most scientific language known so far. So there is at least one language. It's a Rick Briggs statement. He says there is at least one language, Sanskrit, which for the duration of almost 1,000 years was a living spoken language with a considerable literature of its own, which is still existing. So yes, and with this, I would like to share one more thing. There is an ancient Sanskrit literature which is known as Parashar Tantram. Parashar Tantram is an ancient Sanskrit text based on astronomy. So it is not like now we are correlating the Sanskrit with astronomy. It is way back, thousand years back, when Sanskrit was, the astronomy was written in the Sanskrit text. So Parashar Tantra, ancient Sanskrit text on astronomy, was translated and reconstructed by Dr. Hren Iyengar, who wants to shed the light in a prehistoric India on sky, atmosphere, planets, stars, eclipses, and so on. So he also wants to explain how people in ancient India inferred what the observed anomalies in celestial and natural events, they affect the common man. So he wants to say that how these celestial bodies, how the imbalances in the celestial bodies can affect the common man. So that is how it explains the ancient Sanskrit literature. So now comes to the Sanskrit and peace. So as we all know that humans, we as humans are divided by so many factors like language, creed, caste, race, nationalities. So as we all know, Sanskrit is a fundamental language, which is the origin of many languages like Greek, Latin, French, German. So we should understand the beauty of this language and unite and bring peace in the world. So I want to just recite a little small mantra, which says, Om Asto Ma Sadam Gamaya, Tamso Ma Jyotir Gamaya, Mrityor Ma Amratam Gamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, which means, lead me from falsehood to the truth, ignorance to the enlightenment, death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. So the International Peace Day is also celebrated on 21st September. And with this, I want to finish. And I just want to say that only, that the Sanskrit, we should understand the beauty of Sanskrit and we should bring it in our culture. And we should bring peace by using Sanskrit more and more. Thank you, Professor Thomas.
Well, thank you so much. That was a brilliant talk, Kanu. I think we've got time for a bit of discussion.
Yes.
If people have questions or comments, you made, it was a huge amount of stuff. If you stop sharing the screen, Kanu, I think that might be helpful.
Yes, I will stop share.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much for your talk. That I know you put a lot of thought into that. I was particularly interested and intrigued by the neuroscience that you drew on. And I know that Dr. Aaron Sikawa, who's spoken at this forum before, has a particular interest in that, the neurophysiology of peace. And I mean, I understand there's been these experiments showing that learning Sanskrit improves memorization, and you can prove that. I just suspect that the same kind of results would happen. You see, great rabbis memorize the entire Bible in Hebrew. Christians learn and memorize the entire Bible in English or Latin. Muslims learn the entire Quran. I think there's an oral tradition that we're in danger of losing. The Pandits of all religions have this skill, which is, for us, we're so used to having everything written and online. I suspect that the same neurological results would show up. I don't know, that experiment should be repeated with you know, people from other religions to see. I imagine it's the same thing.
Yes, yes. And in this context, I would like to say, like I mentioned during my presentation also, because it is not only memorizing, the Sanskrit alphabets, vowels, and the consonants, they connect with the human physiology. They have some connection with the chakras of the, our physiology. So that is why they somehow affect our physiology as well as our brain anatomy. So this is how it shows how the neuroplastic nature of brain works, how the brain, which is used to be, we used to think that it is fixed in nature, it is not fixed. By your continuous practice of such mantras and these kind of learnings, you can enhance the capacity, and you can enhance your hippocampal size also, which is directly related to your cognitive function and your thinking skills.
Yeah. Now that's brilliant, and that brings a whole other issue about sound. The power of Sanskrit is the sound, the mantra. I did a lot of research in Scotland a few years ago. I published a book called the Kabbalah Runes. You see, in the Hebrew tradition, there's a tradition called the Kabbalah, which believes every sound is a speaking or word of God, and it's that sound energy which creates the universe. In the Norse religion, Odin invents the runes, which are the same. The runes are the sounds that God creates the universe with. And what I did in that book is, and Sanskrit has the same tradition, obviously. And so what I argued in that book, and the Gaelic Druid tradition believes the Celtic sounds of Gaelic are the creative force with which God, creates the universe. So what I argued in that book, the Kabbalah Runes, which I'd love to get your comments on, is that these sounds are universal. They're the building blocks of all languages. You're right that Sanskrit is one of the purest, still spoken origination languages, but I think it's not itself the origination language. I think in my book, I argue that Hamito-Semitic languages like Hebrew and Arabic were once in the same tribal cluster as Indo-Europeans, i.e. Celts, Indians, Sanskrit, and so on. And I posit there must be a prehistoric source when they're common, maybe 20, 30,000 BC, which hasn't been discovered yet, So anyway, but I think the work you're doing there is absolutely brilliant. Any other questions from people? I'm sure we've all been listening with great interest.
Yes.
Yes.
I absolutely loved your talk. It was fantastic. I've read a little bit about the ancient connection between the ancient Turks and the ancient Hindus, and that there are connections between the language and fire ceremonies. I'm just wondering if you've come across any research with the connections between the ancient Turks and the ancient Hindus at all, because that's something that really fascinates me.
Ancient talks and the language, you mean to say?
Yeah, the language, and also ceremonies and culture. That there's been some research into. I've only ever found one article. I'll try and find it and share it with Thomas, but yeah, it was fascinating. I just wondered if you'd come across it at all.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't come across such any text, but because I was always studying in terms of neuroscience, I always wanted to study like how it affects your brain. So I was,
I see. Okay.
Studying in that terms. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I loved your talk. Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I would like to just comment to Jai. I mean, there is archaeological evidence for in the Tarim Basin and in Afghanistan around Balkh, B-A-L-K-H, where Zoroaster came from, who was an Indo-European speaker of what became Persian or Iranian. And his language is very close to the Vedic Sanskrit. The gathas of Zoroaster are quite similar to the Rig Veda and from about the same time. North of him, there were Turkish tribes in Central Asia. So there is some research being done on the links between the gathas, Zoroaster's time, and the sort of early Turks who were shamans. They were doing, you know, for them, the whole of nature was divine, earth, air, fire, water, just like for the rishis and for the druids. You know, this whole universe is a divine Leela. I had a question, Kanu. You mentioned as mathematics, Bhaskaracharia, and you said that there's an institute studying his work, the Leelavati.
Yes.
Now, Leela always gets me excited. This is the dance of life, isn't it? Can you just tell us what is the work, Leelavati? And am I right in thinking it's the dance of life in some way, in maths?
Yeah, so at IIT Indore, Indian Institute of Technology, I mean, they have introduced some kind of courses which are like your Bhaskaracharya treatise in, I mean, the Leelavati. So I have not gone into details, but this is more like they want to teach the different disciplines of your science, like your plant science, metallurgy, and astronomy, and your medicine. They want to teach all these disciplines in the Sanskrit language. So that is their main purpose. So they want to teach those disciplines in their own ancient language.
Right. Amazing. Yeah. Dr.
If I could speak, there are scientific studies. There are scientific studies that prove that, you know, the vibration of love, basically the vibration of love and compassion connects, you know, all the sites, receptor sites on your DNA. So I believe, yeah, Sanskrit, spoken as any language, possibly with the essence of love, would greatly connect everything. I think we're really missing love. That's a huge factor in it. No matter what language you speak in, all is from origin. The origin of all creation, the source of all creation. Okay, we're talking oneness. We're talking absolute oneness, and we can't rule out that. We do know the ancient stories of how the universe was created from sound. In the beginning was the sound and the word. We also know that light and sound are one. When we speed sound up, it becomes light, and when we slow light down, it becomes sound. You know, we do need to look more at things with a universality and a oneness of all creation, rather than separations. Otherwise, we can become arrogant about the separations and the differences in our world, and this is the very things that we hope to, the barriers that we hope to break down and unite people with. That's all I can share at the minute. I'm deeply respectful of the, you know, the history and the cultures of the world and the diversity, and it's absolute a beautiful, beautiful creation. We can see it sometimes when we quieten our mind and open our hearts. Yeah.
Well, there'll be a chance you'll be speaking shortly, Mohammed. So hold your fire a little bit. Thank you for that. Would you like to comment on what he was saying, Kanu? Would you confirm the importance of love as a scientist? Maybe she's vanished. Kanu.
Yes,
Yeah.
Prophet Thomas, I'm here. Yes.
So what would you like to comment on what Mohammed was saying? I mean,
Yes, I would like to comment the Muhammad, like as Muhammad said, so we must think in oneness. So the same thing which I discussed, like Einstein also quoted the same thing. We cannot think ourselves in isolation. We are a part of this family, this universe family, right? So that's what Sanskrit says, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The whole world is a family. So if we are thinking ourselves in a prison, ourselves individually, so that is kind of a prison created by us. So we will be in a prison, kind of a prison. So we are just enclosing ourselves just in our individuality. So we must not think in, yes. So
yeah, there's a wise Vedic saying, the wise men of the world share the same truth, just in different words. And I think that dates back 10,000 years or something, possibly. I think it's a Vedic, yeah, maybe from the Rig Veda. I think it's actually quoted from the Rig Veda. And I think it's a very beautiful saying that can help people realize that as well. The wise people, the wise men, the wise women of the world share the same message, just in different words. And I think we often get lost in these the differences of words, and we miss the essence. And when we really get back to the essence of life and of the eternal and of all of this, it really unites us. Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Thomas, may I jump in?
Well, I think, Marko, it's your turn now. We want to hear your speech. There's a backlog of things because you weren't with us at the last time. Do tell us about how things are progressing with your European Union cultural project, and tell us how things are in Slovenia generally. And I'm sure you will want to comment on the question of sound.
I just wanted to refer to what Kanu was telling, but okay, if I have the slot now, then thank you.
Could you start by introducing yourself, because not everyone knows you.
Sure. My name is Marko Hren. I'm from Slovenia. I'm a head of Slovenian nature-centered faith community. We actually got organized only recently, sort of 10 years ago, since the Christianization of our regions was profound and deep. But Kanu, linguistic is something that is eventually bringing us back to ancient knowledge and the mysteries of the coding of words concerning the nature-centered philosophies and approaches. I agree with Mohammed that we should go back to essence, and good news is that languages survive the memory of the essence. I just participated last weekend at the International Center for Cultural Studies event, joining nature-centered faith leaders from all around the world. We all agreed that linguistics is something that we should focus on when we discuss global reconciliation and global peace building. Essence is one, as Mohammed says, and it's coded in our languages. Kanu, last year I published a book on Slovene case study on ancient wisdom built in the language, and I'm using comparisons with Sanskrit. We are helping ourselves decoding the secret meanings of language, of our language, by using Sanskrit as a field of comparison. Whatever we think about Indo-European origins of languages, the fact is that languages have common roots of, particularly of sacred words. So I'm very interested in exchanging our research results. What we have on our disposal are fragments of ancient knowledge, and we should help each other to understand those fragments and put the puzzles together. At least in Europe, Thomas, you would agree. with Druid studies and old Slavic mythology and ancient knowledge of Slavic tribes, cosmologies. We need to help each other to understand that knowledge and build it into the fabric of the knowledge of humanity to overcome today's troubles in terms of environment, peace, militarization, and etc. But now, so Kanu, I would be very interested in your PowerPoint presentation and in direct contact.
Definitely, definitely, Marko. It's my great pleasure to, share this presentation.
Very good. So we agree. Namely, I'm organizing.
Your Excellency, Marko and Kanu, if I can only make a little suggestion. When we look at languages, when we look at the consonants and vowels, etc., and the sounds that certain words make, if we can look at what is in between those, instead of looking at the sound of the ah and but when they're joined together, and how that's something that I have an experience of, and it might help with regards to the different languages that you're working with, etc. It's like a sound in between, which unites all the different separate sounds. Some might say that's calm.
Yeah, I'm sure lots of people on this forum have experienced that, the silence, the absolute.
Yeah.
Okay, Marko, back to you. You were about to bring us up to date with some of your campaigning and work. So do finish your talk for us, please. Let's try and save questions for Marko.
Thanks. Okay? So I would like to share with you maybe the main information from the last weekend's global conference on ancient cultures and leadership. The message is that the revival of ancient knowledge shall be a priority when we discuss indigenous cultures and sustainable development. That was a global agreement of participants, pretty much leaders of indigenous cultures across the globe. So the revival of deep meaning of ancient scriptures, of course, including Rig Veda, Patanjali Sutras, etc. It's not only a priority of India, which kept this conviction that strong link with Vedic knowledge shall be maintained. Now it's I would say a mainstream thinking that we shall build the ancient knowledge into the fabric of contemporary science, cross-compare it with neurosciences, with quantum physics, with etymological studies. So genetics particularly. So I think that we are in the midst of trending discussion, ancient knowledge, sustainable development, leadership, reform of leadership in terms of global governance, etc. So I think that we're touching a very important topic, and I think that linguistics sits in the midst of it. So Kanu, I wanted to say that I'm organizing a set of conferences in Slovenia for the last 4 years, and now we have a perspective, the horizon till 2025. We will culminate our process of expert conferences in 2025, and Slovenia will host European Cultural Capital. And I will be organizing this conference on international level. Linguistic silence and sound will be fil rouge, red thread of the conference. So between the silence and sound. And I will have a lot on linguistic. That's why I'm interested in your PowerPoint and in further communication. I will also have
a thematic thread on reconciliation and peace. I am connecting the sacred sounds, silence, reconciliation and peace. I think we need a new approach towards reconciliation. We need to discuss reconciliation. We need to discuss past efforts to reconcile nations in conflict. And neuroscience is definitely a scientific approach that can help. I've been reading through several recent studies on this subject. So I'm interested in several points, Kanu, that you did raise while I'm preparing the program. I suggest that we exchange mails, and I will send you the outline for the content of my conference, Kanu.
Absolutely, definitely.
So I would not spend much of our time on that. I think that we are well okay. So I rather give the word to next speakers.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Marko before he blends back into the forest? Marko, I would like to just to introduce Marko's work. He is the leader of what you could call the primal faith of these Slovenians. They've discovered their pagan roots thousands of years before Christianity. And he's doing research, they're doing archaeological research throughout Slovenia and finding it's a living faith. You know, the peasants in the valleys and the mountains never gave up their primal origin. They were Christianized, but only like skin deep. And so working with anthropologists and experts in ethnography, they've discovered these living traditions in the mountains. And he invited me, I think a couple of years ago, as a Druid elder to speak. And I met some incredible people who have been bearing this torch of ancient wisdom. And I think we can find this in all the cultures, but Marko's pioneering this in Slovenia. So it's a great honor to have you addressing us today, sir. Anyone got any other questions for Marko? He's sadly, a couple of the elders of his community have recently died. So that's a bit of a loss, taking with them a lot of the knowledge. But, you know, it's...
Well, to tell you good news, I just had his son on the phone today a couple of times. His family is well alive, and all his family is continuing the work of the deceased father. So
this is Pavel Medvedchuk, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, who I met, right. Good, okay.